So here you can see that I've drawn out how I want to cut this. And now I have to do the dip here. We want to have these handles on each side to be about 4 inches there and 4 inches here. So this is going to be the short handle. This is going to be the long handle. So here are the marks that I made where I want to put the curve. So basically you connect those two dots with a shallow curve. That's going to be the neck of my bag. So now to cut it out, I'll use my rotary cutter, and then up here, you can do this all freehand. Here, this is the long handle. There. And then really the only thing left is the dip. So just kind of cut it out. And there's my template for my bag. You can make it this dip as deep as you want or as short as you want. This is going to be a smaller sized bag with a big handle here and a littler handle here. So this is totally up to you. You can make it deeper, so you just have to add on more inches here. But basically it's 4 inches, 4 inches, and 4 inches, 4 inches. And this can be as deep as you want. So to make the borrow pieces for my quilted bag for this knot handbag, I collected a whole bunch of different fabrics. I'm going to cut small pieces of them. I'm going to do 2 of each color, one for the back and one for the front. And I don't want to include any of the salvage, so I will just cut that off. I'll make 2 piles of fabric. This is where you can use up some of that beautiful fabric that you've had in your stash for a long time and just use little pieces of it. And you can also fussy cut. So for example, I have this fabric that has birds on it, and I love these birds, so I'm going to fussy cut around these birds and include 1 bird on each side of my bag. So there's a bird there that looks fun. I'll cut him out. And I try to make him kind of square. There. And there. So it looks a little bit neat and tidy. There. I'll put that piece on there. I have this blue fabric. I've got more of this bright fabric. I've got deer. I've got my canvas. So you can also include canvas as part of your borrow fabric. It adds a little bit of character. So I will add a little bit of canvas to each side. You need quite a few pieces because you're going to be pretty well covering the whole front and back of your knot handbag. So I kind of want to get this postmark here. There. There's a little piece that I want to include. Here's some blue that I'll cut in half, 1 for each. And then here's some more canvas that I can include, which has some nice lines on it that I like. So 1 for each side. And then there's this nice blue fabric that has butterflies that I'd like to include. You can make your borrow fabrics rainbow, coordinating, neutrals, whatever you want. So you can see I've got 2 piles of fabric. So what I'll do now is take one of my fronts and I'm going to arrange the fabric on the front and overlap your pieces. So for example, you would overlap them like this. And you would want to put some pieces up on the handle. And once you get them set with how you like them, so for example this big one I want to put underneath, but I want the bird to show, so I would put it like that. Here's some white. This can go under here. So you want to overlap them as much as possible. And this can go up the side here. So there, I think that is a nice design. And at this point, what you want to do is you want to glue them down. And glue them down pretty well, because you'll be handling this fabric a lot while you're sewing the sashiko stitches onto it. So glue it down really well. So you can start here, and you can use Elmer's glue, you can use sewing glue, whatever you want. You can even use interfacing. Makes it a little bit stiffer, but you can definitely still use interfacing. And then just place it down, and then you can iron it to make it stick. Okay, so I've glued down all my pieces. There's still a few loose edges that I'll probably have to glue down, but I think I'm pretty well happy with the layout of my boro pieces. So now you want to draw the lines that you will be doing the sashiko stitching on. So what you do is, I have a chalk pen here. It just rolls and distributes a little bit of chalk. It lasts long enough for me to be able to see the lines where I want to do my sashiko stitching. So you basically start on one end and make lines as far apart as you want. You can make whatever pattern you want. You can make a design, hand stitches of different designs, such as a snowflake. I'm going to do simple lines for part of this, trying to keep them as straight as possible. And I just want them to last long enough for me to be able to see them when I'm sewing. I'm going to do big stitch sewing on these, hand stitched sewing. You can also do machine stitching if you have a sashiko machine that does the big stitches. That works just as well. So you just continue marking the pattern until you cover the whole front, and then you do the back as well. And then I'll show you how to sew the whole thing together. Once you have all your lines marked on your outside of your knot handbag, you'll be selecting a bunch of different size threads. So you can use 8 weight, 12 weight, 20 weight. I would recommend somewhere in that range, because you'll be able to see it against the background. This is 8 weight, so it's a nice thick thread. What you'll do is you'll use a tapestry needle, or you'll use a large bore embroidery needle, and you'll use that, such as one of these here, and you'll use something like this with a large eye, and you will sew this by hand. You'll just do a running stitch. You can do any type of stitch you want, make any design you want. That's what sashiko sewing is all about. Okay, here are my two outside layers that I have done a big stitch on. I used my machine to do these big stitches with monofilament thread, just to save on some time, but sashiko stitching would look similar with the big stitches. You can do whatever designs you want. I recommend trying it. It's a lot of fun. It's slow stitching, and it looks probably much nicer than this machine stitching, but I did this because I was in a bit of a hurry. So what you want to do now is you want to sew these two pieces together. So you put them right side together. I had forgotten to mention that this seam here at the bottom can also be a fold. So if you have a big enough piece, you can continue these two front and back pieces as one single piece when you're cutting it out, instead of two pieces. But for this project, I only had two big pieces. I didn't have a big enough piece to do one long piece, so I'm going to do it and sew this bottom edge as well. So you put these two pieces together. You can see there's a little wonky. I'll have to do some trimming just to make it fit properly. But what you want to do is you want to sew up to about here on this side. Sew up to about here on this side and sew the bottom. You want to also do the same thing for the lining. So you can see this one I did use a seam at the bottom, or a fold. So what you want to do is you want to have it right sides together. Same thing. This one you will have to trim because your big stitching has shrunk a little bit. You might have to trim off some of the lining to make it fit properly. It's not a big deal if it doesn't. Nobody notices the inside. So same thing here. You will sew along this side and you go up to the bottom of the curve, and you sew the same distance on the other side up to the bottom of the curve. The reason you want to do this is because this is where your handle is going to be. So you want this area to be open. We will sew those tops together, but we'll do that a bit later. So I've sewn the two sides here, and I've sewn the bottom, and I've also done that with my lining. I sewed up to here and up to here. And what you want to do next is you want to sew the tops of these and leave that gap again open. The next step is that you want to sew all the way along here, all the way around, and connect that. That's going to be your inner seam. That'll connect your lining to your outer layer, and then we'll be turning it inside out. Okay, I've finished this edge all the way around. So what you want to do now is you want to pull the inside out through one of these. It's probably easier to do it through this bigger side, but you want to pull the outer layer out, and then you want to tuck the inner layer inside. So you can see here's the lining. It goes inside the bag, and you tuck this under. And same on this side. There. So what you will be doing with this is now you're going to finish this seam just with a simple stitch all the way around, making sure that the lining stays on the inside. You can finish it all the way around on the inside layer here. And then on this outside layer, what you'll be doing is you can iron it and then sew it together with your machine. So it'll be like that, and finish that edge and then go all the way around as well. So you'll have a hole right here. This is where your handle will be, and then you do the same on this side and finish this edge. You can also hand stitch this if you wanted, but you want to close that up and make it tidy, and do a stitch around the outside to hold it in place. Okay, so I've sewn, you can see I kind of mucked it up a bit there, but you sew around the edge of that, and you sew around the edge of this side to finish that edge, and here you have your handles. And how you want to do this is you put your larger handle through the smaller handle, and there's your bag. This is where you hold it, and it's finished. Congratulations!